Good, welcome again. My name is Martijn Winia, and together with Nadine Herold, we coordinate this program at NWO-WOTRO. And today we are having an information session about the upcoming midterm evaluation procedures. And we are going to inform you about what we expect from you, why we are having this procedure, and of course, giving you ample opportunity to pose your questions, give suggestions, and etc., etc. I must say, as you have heard, I'm having a cold, so my voice is not very strong. I do my best, but I hope that Nadine can back me up in case my voice fails me. I propose that without further ado, I will give the floor to Nadine to give a short presentation on the midterm evaluation, the different procedures and steps in the procedure. I think in terms of logistics, I think it's best to ask Nadine to complete her presentation first. Then you can have the floor to pose your questions. You are free to do that by using the chat function, but you can also raise your hand if you like. Nadine, would you like to share your screen?
Yes, I will do. Let's see. Can't find the presentation. Let me see. To move this, I have two screens. Sometimes it's a bit difficult. Wait. Okay. Let's try it again. Here it is. Difficult start. Sorry for this. I hope you can see the presentation now.
Yes.
Okay, very good. Okay, also a warm welcome from my side. I will now tell a little bit about the objectives and the process of the midterm review. And I go to the second slide. So let me start by saying that the objectives of the midterm review are twofold. It's about accountability and about learning. So what does it entail? Accountability implies that the projects have to report about their progress of their research projects towards the objectives and the proposed outcomes as they have been formulated within their own project proposals, but also according to the program perspective and assessment criteria. It further implies to report on to which extent the project contributes towards the aims of the call, as described in the call for proposals. And here I would like to repeat the aims of the program once again. The aims include to generate new evidence-based knowledge and the use thereof, and to generate tangible outputs for practitioners in lower and middle income countries, but also to take into account the different or the synergies and the trade-offs between the different sustainable development goals and or the targets, and the upscaling of promising innovations, and also formulate tangible solutions for this next step. And please also have a look again to the aims of the call, which we also included in the email when we invited you for this midterm review. The other objective of the midterm review is about learning. And the learning aspect includes three dimensions. The first dimension is content related. Those together we want to learn more about the tackling global challenges and also contributing to achieving the sustainable development goals in the lower and middle income countries to the benefit of the most vulnerable people through a youth-inspired research abroad, and also consequent implications for related policy and practice. The second dimension is process related. So together we want to learn an exchange about successes and also challenges in the project implementation and execution. Exchange also, if possible, because the projects are in different thematic areas, about methods and approaches in order to enhance also the effectiveness of the projects. And the last dimension is about to learn, to give broader lessons, and that will be shared, so we are able to design also in the future effective research programs for societal relevant research. So how does the midterm review procedure looks like? It has 3 stages. So the first stage, there will be a self-assessment stage. Thus, the consortia are asked to organize and finance a midterm workshop at program level with their consortium partners, and wherever possible, also with a wider group of other stakeholders outside the consortium. And there the project's progress should be discussed, and also results achieved so far. And together reflect on the adequacy of the project approach, the planning, and how you want to go further in the remaining 2 years. And if also necessary, the impact plan should be revised to enhance the project performance. And the results and the conclusion of the workshop should then be used to complete a midterm self-assessment report. And to do this, we have sent you the report form, which needs to be filled in together with all the consortium partners. And one note here is due to the ongoing pandemic measures, probably we don't know yet in the Netherlands, but also in your target countries, and also the travel restrictions, consortia are requested to be flexible and also creative in the organization of the required steps in the midterm review. So it likely implies that a project level self-assessment workshop will mostly have to be held online rather than on-site. And the consortia are advised to implement tailored solutions to create an effective online dialogue with your consortium partners, but also if this is applicable with stakeholders from outside the consortium. And if applicable, project budget revisions may also be requested for, and this should be done beforehand. And after we have received all the reports in September, we will send them to the International Advisory Committee, and 2 committee members per report will assess the project progress, and the member or the committee will then advise the program committee to take a decision on the performance of the projects. And the Secretariat will summarize the assessments in an assessment report and send it to the consortium. And it also could be that the assessment report may include advice or project requirements, which are advised to be included then in the further project implementation. And last but not least, there will be a joint program midterm meeting by the end of the year. Here a little bit more about it. In this meeting, the project will exchange progress, and there will be also an opportunity for each project to present their progress and also lessons learned. We will further share insights, challenges in the project, and also lessons learned that have been identified through this self-assessment stage. This will be also addressed through different formats in the meeting, such as breakout groups, plenary discussions, and so forth. And it further provides also the opportunity to exchange views on thematic areas, maybe also on methodological approaches, and for sure on research uptake. And the Secretariat will then organize this midterm meeting and moderate this meeting but we will also ask a proactive role of all the projects in the preparation towards this meeting. How does the timeline looks like? In April, we have sent you the outline and the corresponding report format to conduct the midterm self-assessment. Until September, you are asked to conduct a project level self-assessment workshop. The deadline to submit the self-assessment report is on 21st of September. And the feedback by the International Advisory Committee will be sent in November to all the consortia, and then early December we plan to hold a joint midterm meeting in the Netherlands. It will be a physical meeting, and if this is not possible and the pandemic measures will not allow this, then it will be held online, like we also did last year for the first round. And thank you for attention, and now we are looking forward to your questions.
Thank you very much, Nadine. If you could stop sharing. Yes, perfect. Then we could have a round of questions. I see in the meantime that other people have joined us as well. Welcome to you. Of course, I think all that Nadine has been saying so far has also been communicated to you in writing in April. But we can understand that you may have questions for clarification or suggestions. If you do, please put them in the chat or raise your hand. First, Valentina Matsukatu and then Arthur. Valentina?
Yeah, hi, Martijn, Nadine, hi, everyone. I'm not sure if this is now the right time to raise it, because I saw that you have other question and answer moments later on in the session. But I heard Nadine, and I also read in the forms that you advise us that if we would want to request an extension to do this before the actual midterm, the MTR. Yeah, and I was just wondering about this because, of course, we have incurred some delays due to COVID, but what exactly these delays are hard to assess now because we're in the middle, right? And we might recuperate actually, or we might, you know, have a bigger delay than we currently expect. So I was just wondering if you could give us some advice on how to go about this.
Yeah, to already request for an extension. This was not, maybe I put it wrong, because you, with your project proposal, you planned in a budget for this midterm review. And because maybe it will be online, because you cannot travel to your target country or to your, where your research happens, then you have maybe some budget over, and this can be used to do something else with it. Huh? You should request this a change in your project beforehand. But if you want to have an extension, then please explain it in your format, in your submission to the International Advisory Committee why you need this. And then they will also assess it and give you some ideas about it and some hints, yeah, how to go further. To an extension of the project, you don't have to request beforehand.
Okay, so just to make sure that I understood, because I also saw that for these COVID-related extensions, there are specific forms that we're supposed to fill in. But what you're saying is to actually do it within the midterm.
Yes. Yes. Because now you first need to reflect with your consortium partners how to continue with the project and what you need to do in the remaining 2 years. And then maybe you can also talk about it. Yeah, do we need an extension? How long would it be? And
yeah. But then of course it will be an estimate, and it could be that in the second half of the project things change again, right?
Exactly. So, yes. But then you always have to submit an official request to NWO and explain why you need this extension and so on. But if you can submit it already now with your report, then but you still need to fill in such an official request.
Got it.
Maybe further to this, Valentina, I think in all projects, and you will know that, of course, there's always things that can change, things that can happen. So a timeline and a planning is always valid until just the next day, but especially so in this situation. The reason why we ask for as precise planning as possible is that we want to give the international advisors who will assess progress, the most up-to-date information about where you are in your project and where, with the current information, you think you will be going. But I think a second question is, of course, what may change in the next future, and how are we going to handle that in a flexible manner?
Yeah, so it's one thing to say this is our plans and these are the issues we're experiencing and this is how we think we're gonna face them. That's what I would expect to do in the MTR. And it's another thing to ask for an official request for an extension, which is another thing, another form, and that can happen at another time. Okay, so we understand each other. Perfect, thank you.
Yeah, perfect. Arthur.
Yeah, thanks. I had a question about the self-assessment workshop. Maybe you cover it later, but do you also have a suggested format for that, or maybe examples from the consortia that started earlier? Because at the moment, I'm not really sure. I understand that everything that should be in the report should be tackled, but maybe some, if you have some suggestions for that, it might be useful.
Nadine, can you say something about that?
I mean, we don't really have a format for it. I mean, it's a bit up to you. It's like a project level workshop where you discuss with your own consortium partners, and maybe also on a later stage, maybe in another session with other stakeholders outside your consortium about what you have achieved so far. And you should also align this with the report, what kind of question we ask, and then you discuss all those questions with your consortium partners. And it's also, especially about what you want to do in the remaining 2 years, that you also report on this. And we don't really have a format, and it doesn't have to be too long if you report on this workshop. Just tell us a little bit how you organized it and who was involved in this workshop. And then and the rest comes actually in the back in the format.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah, further to that, the basic idea of a self-assessment is that with as many consortium members and partners, you take stock of, well, after 2 years into the project, where do you stand right now? So the rationale is to have a reflective moment within and beyond your consortium. And indeed, there are different forms to organize that. But that's the basic idea behind it. And if you like, we can, of course, bring you into contact with consortia in the first round to hear from them how they went about. If that is something that you would be interested in, then we can file that request to the project leaders in the first round.
But the difference was, of course, that then we didn't have the pandemic yet. So most of them they just did their self-assessment workshop before Corona started. So most of them happened really on site and not online. Maybe 1 or 2, I remember. So, but if you really feel a need that we should bring you in contact with other consortium, then we can do this, of course.
Yeah, I'll discuss with the colleagues, and then if still needed, then let you know.
Thank you.
Thank you. I see a number of hands raised. I have in the order of which I saw your hands, Marike, Frederike, Fulco, Ajay, and Walter. So Marike, please go ahead.
Thank you. Yeah, I hope this question is also relevant for the other colleagues here. But I was wondering about this, the workshop and the meeting with the consortium. In our case, we have quite a large consortium, and several members of the consortium are involved in the project in different ways and related to different case studies, of which one hasn't even started yet. This is the Israel-Palestine case study, and wasn't planned to start either. So for me, to invite them, for example, to this meeting doesn't really make much sense, because all we can conclude with them is that indeed we haven't started yet as planned. And some other consortium members as well. So there were like the NGO partners who work on the different case studies, but on the other hand, there are the academic partners who are doing more academic work and who we meet with monthly already. So yeah, I was wondering, I don't know if other people have this as well, but it doesn't really make sense to bring them all together, because they're really quite different players and different contexts. And but do they all really need to sign off on this? And yeah, so what is the role of all these consortium partners, basically?
Nadine, do you want to respond, or should I take this?
Yeah, I would start in your case. I know you have different target countries as well, that you bring maybe together your core team and you start with them, maybe also from different countries. Maybe it makes sense that they also learn each other and exchange about the progress in the other countries. And then, yeah, I mean, it's actually up to you. You should make use of this opportunity to reflect a bit what you achieved so far, but also, yeah, going, yeah, have a look into the future. What maybe can also be exchanged between the different countries and knowledge. So it's a bit up to you how you organize this. But it's not necessarily that you have to have all the consortium partners together. If you think it doesn't make sense in your case, then that's fine.
Okay, yeah, we already pre-discussed it with our team, and we have a plan, but I just wanted to check that we don't officially need everyone to sign it. Okay, that's good to know. Thank you.
Frederica?
Yeah, I wanted to follow up a bit on Valentina's question, or also maybe make a suggestion that, of course, now we can report and reflect on all the delays and COVID and civil wars and whatever, etc. And we cannot really know what kind of delay or how long. Because I think budget neutral delay is well, that's possible, but then of course PhDs, well, they need to survive and they need to pay the rent. So when we want to give them an extension, actually that's not budget neutral. So that's well a question: how is NWO assisting on that, or do we have to deal with that within our faculty? And I think, well, we all target countries where traveling was slightly impossible, and maybe in December we can have a kind of joint vision on the delay. Because I think what NWO wanted is that in the end we have again this end workshop all together. What did we learn? But when our project is delayed 6 months and another is maybe even delayed a year or less, then we cannot have this joint closure. I think that's why we have to be on the same track a bit. That's what I understood before. So maybe we can have a kind of inventory of all the delays and then see, hey, maybe we should push the end workshop a little bit further away.
Yeah, I think that's a fine suggestion, Frederica, because at this moment, I think it's near to impossible to predict how even the next year, let alone the next 2-3 years, will look like. So I think, yeah, we should always have this kind of flexibility. On the other hand, I don't think we should necessarily have an end workshop when all the projects have concluded. Maybe a month before that. I think we should always pick up a moment in time when most of you are nearing the end and have the most insights and lessons to share with each other. Because whenever is a project really finished, even after a project has ended, most of you will continue publishing, sharing your ideas.
Yeah, true.
It's a bit artificial to pick a date,
The impact is actually coming maybe even afterwards.
Yeah, we even made studies of that at NWO-WOTRO, and we saw that outputs in terms of academic publications peaked after 5 years after a project has ended. Now that's something to think about. But I think it's a good suggestion. Maybe the first part you were talking about is the compensation. So of course, as much as we can, we try to be flexible in the ways you want to readjust your budgets. But we also realize, of course, that maybe, yeah, you would need extra money to accomplish what you intentionally wanted to achieve. If I'm not mistaken, there has been an agreement between NWO and the universities in the Netherlands that there will be, I think, a lump sum budget transferred to the universities, which then has to be distributed among those projects. I see Valentina nodding. Maybe you know more about that.
Well, I just know that we have these hardship funds, and that it's distributed. Each faculty, at least in my university, has their own procedures for how PhDs, but also postdocs, can apply for this. And we have even a committee that assesses these things. But I can say already that, you know, the funds, and because there are many PhDs and postdocs and the funds are limited, these extensions are usually somewhere between, say, 1 to 3 months. It's never like a big chunk but it's helpful. It's helpful.
Yeah, and our faculty is not so clear. It's more for PhDs who were at the end of their PhD and then delayed because of COVID. But well, somebody who actually was ending the first year, yeah, this delay is so fluid still. So that's, I think there's no compensation yet allocated to it, but maybe in the future.
Is it sufficient as an answer for now, Frederica?
Yeah, for the moment it is. Yeah.
Volko, you put a question in the chat. What do we communicate to our PhD students?
Maybe maybe in link to the rest of the discussion. So what I hear you saying is that, so the funds are transferred to the university. So if we need an extension, we have to arrange that internally. So there's not going to be an extension from this program, or at least an additional funding. I mean, and maybe a temporary. Yeah. Right.
Okay. Right. Yeah, and personally, I would say I realize what Valentina also said, that the additional compensation that you may expect through the route of your universities, I don't think it will be abundant. My feeling is that, yeah, we have a responsibility for those researchers that we have contracted as part of these projects. So if that implies that maybe other research activities, material costs, so to speak, have to be reduced in order to guarantee that our PhD and postdoc researchers can serve to the end of the contracts, I think that is to be valued. So that could imply that perhaps we would have to reduce some activities. Not us as NWO-WOTRO, but you in your projects. That may be a very tough decision for you to take, but in the end, it may be a realistic scenario.
Okay, thanks.
And we will not push you in any direction to do so, but I think it's fair to raise this anyway. I think, well, you all know. I think you all realize that. Maybe that is something to, and not to describe in terms of solutions or hard decisions yet in the midterm evaluation, but it may be a direction that you may want to give to the external advisors. Saying, well, we have seen that this round of data collection has not been accomplished in the first year. So we foresee that maybe we have to downgrade this work package or something like that. Ajay.
Thanks, Martin. Well, as you'll have read, India has been hit quite hard in terms of both our sites, actually. So we had to change quite a lot. And also our postdocs were ill due to COVID and everything. My question is a bit more, I mean, if I look at the proposal of what we had planned and where we were supposed to be at midterm, are we going to be evaluated based on that frame or on what the reality of the situation is at this moment? Because for us, conceptually, we are not yet at midterm. In a sense, because of these delays, we are, we have been able to do some activities, but not enough to reach that midterm in that sense. So when I looked at the form and I thought, okay, so this would assume that we also put ourselves forward that we have reached the midterm. That I find a bit difficult in a sense to say. I can of course say this is all the activities that we have done. For objective 1, we have reached this, or objective 2, we could do this, but it's not yet at midterm in that sense of what the proposal we had written or even the changes that we have made. So yeah, I'm wondering how the International Advisory Committee is going to evaluate the proposal or the midterm reports, because they may have this in their mindset that this was the midst. This is what we had to reach to, and we are a bit concerned that what if we don't match up to those requirements in that sense. Yeah.
Thank you. That's a very important question, Ajay, and I see a number of thumbs up and approvals from colleagues. Nadine, would you like to react to that first? Or would you like me to answer?
Yeah, I can say a little bit about it. Of course, we will also explain the International Advisory Committee to take into account the whole COVID pandemic situation. Of course, they also will have a look to your project proposals. We will also send them again what you actually proposed to do in the first 2 years. But of course, we also explain them when we invite them, that they need to take into account the pandemic situation, and they will also see from your report, and you will also, all of you will explain it, what was possible, what not, what can still be planned, what work package needs to be revised and downgraded, as Martijn already said. So I hope, this explains a little bit how we will handle this whole situations.
Valentina?
Yeah, sorry, just to jump in here. I mean, I'm not so concerned about the actual evaluation. I mean, of course I am concerned, but I mean, that's not the main point. The main point for me is that there's a lot of effort and energy that goes into making a stakeholder meeting and organizing it, and also for them to participate. You know, they've participated already quite some times with us, where we've actually given very little because we didn't have yet much to give, right? And if we hold such a meeting with them, we still won't have much to give, because, you know, we can talk about some preliminary findings, but they're so minimal. And I feel that if I were just not thinking about any advisory committee or anything, and I was just thinking purely from the point of view of the project and when would it make most sense for the project to receive input from the stakeholders, to discuss where we are and how to maybe veer or not, it wouldn't be necessarily now, because the midterm is not really the midterm in the sense of timing. So for me, for example, I'm hoping if everything goes as we have now readapted, it would make much more sense for me to meet with people around November, December, the stakeholders, I mean, and then to really have, okay, yeah. So, and I understand that you guys also have your own timing, but to what extent is there any kind of leeway that this planning that you've given us could be maybe shifted by a few months? And maybe this is just for me, so then it wouldn't make sense. But if more of the projects would feel this way, would this be a possibility?
Yeah, it's a fine suggestion, Valentina. well, formally, this leeway should be there because we selected, and that's a decision from the program committee, that after this 2 years, we will have a midterm evaluation. There's no written rule anywhere within NWO or in the program committee that we cannot postpone it by 6 months. The only thing I'm a bit worried about is, yeah, I'm not so sure that the situation in, let's say, 6 months from now will be so favorable to make extensive travel abroad possible. So I'm a bit reluctant to postpone 6 months and then face another situation where maybe in the Netherlands the situation is much better, but we are all working in countries where the situation may be far more difficult by then. It may be a route that may lead to further extensions. And in any case, just like I was saying to Frederike, when it comes to the final report and the final conference, it's always an artificial moment. I think there's never a moment, neither at an individual project level nor at a broader program level, that we can all say, now this is the perfect moment for a midterm evaluation. There's always something to maybe have it earlier or have it later. So yeah, I hear your points, but I think 2 years into a project should be a fine opportunity to take stock of what you have been doing so far. And we can always, on a project level, of course, you can have your more elaborate consultations with your partners at a later stage. That should not necessarily be part of this midterm evaluation.
Okay, well, that tranquilizes me a bit, because I agree with you. Any time to take stock could be a good time. But my problem is this meeting that we need to do before this exercise. I feel responsible towards these stakeholders, and I don't feel like having an artificial meeting just because we have this deadline. I would much prefer to have a really good, reflective assessment with you guys and the advisory board, but then just have a meeting with my stakeholders maybe afterwards, and when it makes more sense from the content point of view. And I don't know if we have any leeway to do that.
Then, Valentina, I would suggest that you really stick to your core team, to your project partners, and leave out for the moment your stakeholders you want to target. That you do this more outside reflection with the other stakeholders on a later moment, but still to use this opportunity to get together with your core team.
Would that be helpful, Valentina?
Yeah, I think it's helpful. I need to think about this. And I think we've faced a particular issue in our project that is so particular to our project that I might have to discuss with you guys individually rather than waste everybody's time.
Let's do this.
But thanks. Yeah.
I had a suggestion also. Maybe in our group, we were thinking, instead of having, I mean, I agree with Valentina in terms of getting this whole group together is already difficult, in a sense that they have 10 other things that they have rather do, or it's difficult to also find people to come together. So is it do you all expect to have single consultation? Because in our group, in our project, we were thinking, why don't we have smaller consultations with different groups and then combine it together, because those are easier to organize as opposed to bringing everyone together on one day to do it. That takes a lot more logistical thing, rather than having a core message and then getting to different stakeholders to get their inputs, which is for our postdocs much easier to organize, or it doesn't take so much of efforts in that sense. Yeah. And maybe it is also more insightful to have a smaller group and get their inputs than to have one large organization in that sense. Yeah.
Yeah, like I already mentioned beforehand, you can organize this the way you think is the best for your project. And if you think it's better to have a small consultation with a smaller group and then maybe take those results into the next consultation, if this works for you better, then yeah, go ahead and plan it like this, yes.
I propose that we will also consult the program committee on this and give you a more solid and clear answer to the question that you and Valentina and others have also raised on how to relate the midterm evaluation workshop to the evaluation. Because in a normal situation, I think it makes perfect sense to have, after 2 years, have a reflective moment and at the same time have a dialogue on what the emerging findings are. But we realize, but maybe have not realized to the extent that you have now told us, how difficult it is to combine the two. So I think it's a fine suggestion, and we will give you a more detailed response also by having heard the midterm of the program committee. Alter.
Yeah, hello, good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for the nice explanation. My question was for the also question on the workshop. Would one of you or would NWO also be interested to join this self-assessment workshop, or is that really purely a project internal kind of workshop?
Yes, no, it's internal. Yeah, we cannot join 8 consultations, and maybe like Ajay suggested, also different times and different consultations. So it's
yeah, no, I thought so. But,
yes, but thank you for asking.
Oh, here we have divergent views, Nadine. I think it's in no way compulsory to invite us, but I think there's no harm in if you like us to participate. Maybe we cannot always participate or participate fully, but then we will have rather an observing status, and we will not advise you or.
You're muted, Martijn. So no, we can't hear you anymore, Martijn.
Oh yeah, does make a big difference though. You didn't hear anything I said, huh? Okay. I see a number of hands still raised, Frederica, Marika, Walter, but I think these are old questions.
Well, I think I wanted to jump into the discussion about Valentina and saying, well, it feels a bit inappropriate to have the meeting now and to get everybody together. And actually, well, we coincidentally saw each other last week, and we have the same, that we actually projected this to happen in, well, October, November, and now it should be September. And well, speaking about Ethiopia, we also have this election, so we cannot put this burden on these people. And so what we decided is to have a meeting, but leave some people out, and then maybe deliver and kind of annex to the report later when we have some more news. Or that's a bit what we decided then last week. So maybe that can work for you as well, Valentina, that it's a kind of 2-stage thing.
Yeah, we've been talking about this, that we indeed have, we are going to be strict on the deadlines for the midterm evaluation, but we will ask you to reflect on where you are now, maybe in a smaller group of consortium members, and have this larger feedback and dialogue session with your stakeholders at a more appropriate timing.
Maybe I can, I accidentally had my hand up. I wasn't planning to, but now that I was mentioned anyway. just to be clear, so Nadine and Martijn, after Walter's question, would you like to receive an invitation? Because I didn't think about that at all, but I'm happy to invite you. And if you want to observe, you're welcome to. Maybe that even tells you more than the written report. So yeah, would you like us to invite you or not?
It's nice how we gave different answers.
So Martijn, then go ahead. Yes, invite us, and then we need to see if we have time at this moment. And let's see if it's possible for us to join. But like Martijn said, it's more also in an observer status and not leading you in any direction.
Yeah, that's clear. Thanks.
Well, yeah, you all have these exciting research projects. I think it would be a waste for us if we only get to contact you when you want to have a budget neutral extension or something like that. I think it's rather these content related workshops that also interest us.
Well, in that case, we could also just invite you to a regular meeting, which may be even more interesting than the more, I guess, midterm administrative, looking at the timeline, seeing what objectives did we make, what did we not make. And no, I'll just invite you to something that's interesting if you want to get an idea of the project. That might be really nice. Sit in if you want.
Yeah, please do. And realize that we have to be selective and our time is limited, but yeah. Good. Any final thoughts, questions, remarks? Some of the participants who have not spoken out yet. Maybe somebody from abroad. If not, then of course feel free to contact us on an individual level at any time if you have questions that maybe were not fit for this collective phone call. And on that note, I would like to thank you all for your participation and your questions, and wish you all the best with the continuation of your projects and your self-assessments.
Okay, thanks. Can I ask a short question to Valentina? Could we meet up for 3 minutes after this meeting?
Yeah, just whisper so that no one else hears.
Well, because we have the same country and the same problem. So, but I have a meeting at 5, so it's just short.
No, that's fine. Can we stay on this place?
Okay, yeah.
I don't know, Martijn and Nadine, I have no idea.
I have a quick question.
I think it should be possible, yeah.
Okay, let's try it, and otherwise we'll be in...
An email or a link, yeah.
So I remember